Oh, my fellow Americans, are we reaping our harvest of greed? Have we built our house on sinking sand? Why are we being ugly Americans?
Welcome to Weekdays Live with Homeowners for Justice. I'm CJ Holmes, the founder and independent real estate agent, broker. The fact is, I have been watching the collapse of the housing market since 2008. And I've been horrified and devastated and have been fighting back. So thank you for joining us and watching what is going on and how we're gonna win. Because we're gonna win, you mark my words. And pretty much these days, having been a broker since 2005, I'm usually pretty right. They have been stealing our homes, and I wanted to point out some articles, bring it to your attention. And again, I apologize for yesterday. I got suckered into a live stream software update. Whoops. And so that's why we had so much technical problem. I've backed that out. We're back to the basics. It's going to be live. It's going to work. Thank goodness. So here we are. I'd like to point out that on November 26, 2012, Foreclosure Radar recorded its millionth California foreclosure sale since January 2007. This is horrific news for 1 million people in California. And this is just California. That's why they're saying they've foreclosed 4 million. I swear it's higher than that, because Foreclosure Radar and Realty Track, the people that are tracking, do not get all the foreclosures. They get a lot of them, but I already know from experience that they don't get them all. Because sometimes I look to find it and I can't find it on these kinds of software products. I also wanted to point out that in this independent foreclosure review, which we talked about last week, how the banks, the mega banks, are buying off the OCC with another, what, $8.5 billion. And the facts is that's not cash. That most of that will be principal forgiveness. And principal forgiveness is forgiven by the taxpayers, Fannie, Freddie, FDIC, AIG, the people in the insurance side of the mortgage-backed securities. They're going to pay. So we're paying, trust me, we're paying. And so we know it's not their money. And we also know that this is going to be a tax write-off for these banksters. And we just really have to stop this. And I have some really good news. We're looking for a really powerful update Friday. I'm asking some attorneys that have been contacting me about the lawsuits they're filing and where they're at in them to share with us what's going on. But in the meantime, these are recent articles. Here's one in December 20, how Seattle area foreclosures are rising. This is not good news. And what is happening, you're going to read all about it in the paper, how prices are up and inventory is down and real estate is getting back to normal. And yet, and Darwin, by the way, I really want to apologize to Darwin. He's on the show with us today, and this was my mistake. I'm supposed to be the producer and the host, and I did not make clear who was to call whom. So he was waiting for me to call, I'm waiting for him to call. So that was just my mistake, and I'm getting better at this, so please forgive me. And we're just so thankful he's going to share, and he's been doing this research, how this is a home-ownerless recovery. I'd like him to share with us in just a minute. So another article I'd like to point out, these will be linked, and I apologize, yesterday I was so busy trying to fix our technical software problems with Livestream, I did not get my links done, but I will step up and do those links today, for both yesterday and today in the live stream comment section on each show. So here we have Economy Watch, the rising foreclosure risk clouds housing outlook. And I'm telling you, we can guarantee that if anybody gets hurt, it's going to be us, the people. We must rise up and we must stop these foreclosures. We must get the houses back they've already foreclosed. We have to get restitution for the people that have been cheated. And then we can start to have a booming recovery that isn't jobless and isn't homeownerless. So thanks, Darwin, for joining us. He's joining us via Skype. So how are you doing? You there? Well, here's his picture.
I'm pretty good this morning.
Oh, okay, there he is. Uh, can you share with us a little bit about who you are and how you've done what you've done in these articles?
Yeah, I'm a sociologist and I do independent research currently, and I write for a number of publications, and I'm generally interested in what's occurring in the housing market right now. I'm especially interested in who's making most of the money in the housing markets.
And so who's making most of the money in the housing markets?
Well, so the sort of mythological American story is that it's the average American family that buys a home and then experiences these gains in equity, can put their savings into it, and they benefit from home ownership. And there's been truth to that myth. Since the 1940s, most Americans have been able to buy houses and build up their wealth. With the financial crisis in 2007, 2008, we saw for the first time in recent history an actual decline in the rate of homeownership in the United States, and the ranks of renters are increasing. So that got me thinking, though. How do you then explain the recent rises over the past year or so in home prices if there isn't this huge market out there? If there's not millions of Americans with the cash or the actual credit to buy a home, well, who's buying all these homes and who's making the money off these home price increases? So the short answer is it's a small number of hedge funds and a relatively small number of private equity groups.
And how are they doing this? Do you understand how they actually are able to buy bulk homes like this?
Yeah, I think the actual mechanics of how. So you take a private equity group like Blackstone, right? Apparently, Blackstone. The article I wrote, I said something like, they had maybe a couple thousand homes, maybe 6,000 homes in their portfolio already. I just saw yesterday some articles floating around saying that actually Blackstone has about 16,000 homes in their portfolio. So it's probably actually more than that. They may have, who knows, they might have 20,000 single-family residential homes in these rental platform portfolios that they're building in markets like California and Arizona and elsewhere. And they're acquiring these homes generally through short sales and foreclosures. I think you mentioned that they're getting them before they even hit the market for, say, the average small investor or home buyer to even look at. But so the actual I'd be curious hearing from you the actual mechanics of how because I know they've swooped in and taken some of the homes probably that in the market that you work in.
I appreciate everyone's trying to figure this out, Darwin. The fact of the matter is, we're not real sure whether they are going to auction directly or whether they are. I think they're doing all of it, all of the above. I think they go to the courthouse steps for anything that makes any sense. I know that there's some big buyers here in town. When I say town, I'm talking about the Bay Area, San Francisco County. And I'm also showing right here on your website, your article, that millions are foreclosed on, and the loan type, the mortgages, the delinquencies, and how some investors saw this was coming, how you had some guy in, I forget his name right now, you highlighted a young gentleman from Oakland who worked with the hedge funds and has helped them do stuff. The facts are these. I think because I do not see, as a broker looking at the market, the MLS, the listings, they are not listing foreclosures. Foreclosure listings have greatly dropped this year. And the fact of that is partly what has pushed prices up, because basically prices are supply and demand. But like you've pointed out, with a homeownerless recovery, that if the people cannot get a loan, or if there's so much cash purchase coming into a market, people with loans can't compete, which I see that a lot.
Yeah, and these private equity investors, they have cash, and
oh, absolutely.
yeah, they can just swoop in, lay down cash, buy a house.
And not only do they have cash that they can just hold. So I think one of the articles, that either something you said or something I read somewhere, where they have these thousands of homes, let's say 16,000, I think, but half of them aren't even fixed. They're not even repaired. They don't have renters. So this is cash that can afford to just sit on the sidelines and not get any return. Now that is very different from most, I'm going to call local cash investors, right, who may only buy, like I'm saying, okay, these are small investors that have $1 million. Makes
right.
me laugh to think of a small investor being $1 million, because it used to be a big investor. That used to be big. And now it's just, they're nothing. They buy 10 houses, it's over. And they pretty much struggle to get them, get them a return quickly enough, because they need something for that money, something coming in. So when you have a hedge fund that can afford to, hold 8,000 homes just vacant in their portfolio, this is a total game that leaves out the people. We're lost.
That's definitely that's an arbitrage play that some of them are doing. I think McKinley Capital, they're a private equity group here in Oakland, and they expressed the view in a few different articles on Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal that while they're buying single-family homes and they would like to turn them into these so-called rental platforms, they expressed the view that that's not even necessary because of the price increases that we're seeing in homes right now due to the actions of the Fed and due to some of the other big investors in the market and due to the banks holding back some of the foreclosure inventory and not flooding the market with it right now. The price increases that they're seeing, that private equity group said this is a clear arbitrage play.
Oh my goodness.
We're just going to buy low and wait, and those home prices will increase by such a percent that within a year or so, if we want to offload them, we'll have made many tens, maybe even hundreds of millions of dollars on that, and they don't have to do anything in the meantime.
Oh my goodness. And okay, so here's how we can ruin that game. Let's take these houses back. This is just so unfair to the people, because the people can't get a loan, especially if they've lost the home. If they lose the home to short sale, here's the real rub. Most of the losses right now are because people lost income. And they couldn't keep their loans. The banksters have lied to them and dual-tracked by saying, okay, we'll modify your loan. And the banks are getting paid to do that, but they get paid more to foreclose. So they'll drag a person on a loan mod as long as possible, and then they'll foreclose on them. We call it, it's nicely called dual tracking. I call it lying, stealing, and cheating. But they take these houses back in foreclosure. They've been sitting on an inventory. We already know that Fannie Mae itself had 1 million vacant foreclosures. And the fact is, now when you combine what you're talking about, this arbitrage play by the big hedge fund investors, the mega wealthy, and of course it's not their money. Let's always remember this.
Right.
These hedge fund guys, it's always other people's money. So if something goes wrong, they're not going to lose. Personally, they're already making big fees, right?
Yeah, and I think some people might be shocked actually to hear about whose money it really is. So GI Partners, that's a hedge fund. They're sort of a quasi hedge fund, quasi private equity group. They're more a private equity group than a hedge fund in terms of how they invest. They're based in Menlo Park, and they're backing the Waypoint Corporation. And Waypoint is the one that really has innovated and created this sort of foreclosure to rental mill industry. GI Partners, their money that they're investing comes primarily from the California Public Employees Retirement System. So a lot of public employees, teachers, firefighters, police officers, for all sorts of cities and counties and the state of California, a lot of public servants, their retirement savings are being funneled into these private equity groups, which are promising huge rates of return for CalPERS on their investment. But then these private equity groups turn around and use this money for quite nefarious stuff. You can see this also, I think, the California State Teachers Retirement System. Some of their money has been backing some of these foreclosure to rental mills, as has the endowment of Columbia University. And you can trace this money all over, these big pots of public and educational pension institutional funds. They're being essentially handed over to these guys in suits who promise, 10, 15% returns to grow the retirement fund, but then they turn around and they invest in stuff like, these foreclosure rental mills. And there's, this is one of the nastier businesses they invest in, but they invest in some other gnarly stuff. I think California Teachers Retirement System was invested in that Cerberus Capital private equity group that was that owned that Freedom Group, the gun manufacturer that makes the gun that was responsible for the Newton killings. But you can trace this money all over it. It's pretty interesting what private equity has been able to do with essentially public employee retirement savings.
And oh my goodness. And so what I hear when you're explaining follow the money. We talked about this yesterday, and how the judges in the CalPERS pension funds, those are in all these mortgage-backed securities. And so the judge, in the back of his mind, has a conflict of interest, because if he rules in favor of the homeowner, then the judge thinks that that's going to hurt his pension fund. Most judges think that. The fact of the matter is, the pension fund has been insured and gets paid by insurance. The trouble is, the banks are shunting off those insurance payments into their own pockets instead of the mortgage-backed securities. So they're screwing everybody. And now what you're telling me with public monies, like, let's just think teacher retirement. Okay, so the retirement funds are now going into these. Now it's foreclosure to rental mills, and here's something I want to just put into the conversation, because this is true. The facts are these, and we're going to be talking with Valerie in just a few minutes, and she agreed last week to bring the property laws, the statutes from tangible to intangible property. And the fact is, the banks have been stealing these houses from the people by forging foreclosure paperwork. It's a huge issue, and we're hoping to have some really powerful lawsuit updates on this Friday. So Darwin, think about this, and what would you say? Because the bottom line is, in this country, when you buy stolen property, when that property is returned to its rightful owner, you don't get any payments back.
Unless you're a bank, apparently.
Well, and you know this. The banks have already got the government, in their pocket. So
Right.
if anybody loses money, it's going to be coming. The teachers' retirement funds are going to take the hit, right?
It may very well be. But thus far, it's been just the homeowners, taking the
Right.
biggest hit, and
Right.
But I guess we'll see. We're gonna see, whose equity is considered most sacred in this process as these lawsuits and as this process plays out. And I think you're right. It may very well be that the next to take a hit will be some of the pension funds, some of the public institutions that have invested in this stuff.
See, it's always the people, being turned against each other. I like
Right.
to feel like we're rats on a ship, and as the ship is sinking, we're chewing on each other rather than going to the captain and chewing on him.
This is sort of I think the geographer David Harvey put it well when he tried to define neoliberalism, right? So we're living in the neoliberal era, liberal not being like a political liberalism, but rather a sense of economics, like this sort of free market fundamentalism. And he said, the times we're living in are characterized by a privatization of the profits and the winnings, and a socialization of risk and loss. And that's kind of what you see playing out. This is exactly what you're talking about right now in terms of the housing market. It's the people, it's public institutions, and it's quasi-public institutions like pension funds, large social insurance that's supposed to pay out to large numbers of people. We're the ones who will take the losses, the hits, and it's the private institutions controlled by the highest paid executives, controlled by the wealthiest people in America, the banks, the investment banks, the hedge funds, the private equity groups. They will maintain their equity, and they will take any of the profits that are available to them.
Right. And there are no clawback clauses, I'm quite sure. You know what I mean? In other words, if they're ever found liable, they won't be able to be found liable because of the way, they've smartly written the contracts, and it'll just be more of the public taking the hit.
Yeah, and they, the wealthy, it's money is power, money is political power, and over the last, since World War II, especially since the early 1970s, the wealthiest 1% in this country, they funneled a lot of money into lobbying at the state and federal levels to change the way that laws are written about investments, about liabilities, about corporate taxes. They've structured the real estate market and the housing market in exactly the way so that if there was a crisis, it would play out how it's largely been playing out. So none of this is sort of like, happenstance, like this just happens to be the way it's playing out.
Right.
This is all very much a political struggle, and the people who are winning the riches from this political struggle, they've put a lot of time and effort, a lot of lobbying. They've had their lawyers in the Congress, and they've had their lawyers in bank boardrooms structuring everything so that they are at the senior most position of the capital structure and the way that things play out when everything sort of falls apart.
Wow. Thank you for saying it so elegantly. Such bad news.
Yeah, but you're right. Fighting back.
Exactly.
You're fighting back. Other people are fighting back. This is not written in stone.
Right. And the fact is this: there's way more of us than there are them. We outnumber them. We just have to expand our awareness and our political platform. We have to get more boots on the ground. And when I say political, I don't mean Republican or Democrat. We talked about how that's just a two-party game and it leaves the people out. We need to have a people's platform. This is of the people, by the people, and for the people, and against these kinds of long-term schemes. We have to change the game. Thanks so much for sharing with us, Darwin. We got to get on to Valerie. She's brought with us some serious research about tangible and intangible property laws, and part of our fight back to literally stop foreclosures. Because really, in our fight back, now Darwin's really brought to attention some things we really need to think about, and that is, how do we fight back in a way that we can protect the people's pension funds, those huge pools of money, and try to make the losses fall on the hedge funds and the banksters. Thanks, Darwin. We appreciate you. We hope that you can come back and join us again maybe next week. Give us some more update about following the money, where it's going, who's doing what to whom.
I would love to. Thanks for having me on, and thank you for doing the show. It's a great resource of information.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, Valerie, you're online.
Hi, CJ. How are you?
Oh, fine. Thanks for joining us. So,
thank you.
I put you on the spot last week. I understand that. About, you said that you could find these statutes and etc. and bring up what is actually going on in a simple enough manner, because this is part of the issue. It's a complicated scheme. It really is. But it's not understandable. We can grasp it, but help us go through it, if you will, so that we can actually...
What I would like to do is I sent to you 2 emails.
Yes.
And there are some instructions on there which shows you which one is the laws. Can we bring that up? We'll zip through it fairly quickly. I know I think it's like 10 pages maybe, but we'll go ahead and verbally review it so that others understand. Just have a good foundation. That's our objective today.
Okay, and this is, what is the UETA? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. All right.
Okay, are we ready to go?
Well, let me, it's right now in a Word format, so I'm going to turn that into a PDF file so we can look at that better. Can you, I've got up on the screen the default stretch that James had sent, but I can pull up your analysis of securitization using MERS, that chart.
Okay.
Can you talk about that for just a few minutes? I'm going to...
uploading also this Word doc just because I really think it's very important for people to have so they can just read it and just review all the different laws that we're going to be speaking about.
Right. I'm doing that right now, and I will have that in probably 60 seconds. But I've got up on the screen the analysis of the securitization using MERS of a Freddie Mac loan. Oh, and it's for you. It's your loan, right?
Okay, well that is actually the second document I like to review after we go through all the laws. Can we go through all the laws first?
Just a second. I'm trying to save this so that I can show it as a PDF. Let's see. I'm going to be there real quick here. And I want the viewers to understand, Valerie has just like been working 24/7 to get all this put together. It is not simple, it's not straightforward, but she's been really fabulous in really working hard so that the people can understand our laws. This is part of the issue. We just heard Darwin talk specifically about how the lobbyists have been, working overtime, trying to get to where they can change the laws for their benefit, and we lose. This is part of the issue. The people don't have a lobbyist. So, I've been thinking over time about trying to change that. How do the people get a lobbyist? How do we fight back on all of these fronts? Okay, the document's up.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So what I would like to do is just give everyone a foundation. My objective is to help other people establish that foundation so that they then can look at a diagram and say, oh, I follow it, I understand.
Right.
And more so, be able to go on to James McGuire's website, which is fabulous, and be able to go on there and look at the various videos, the various documents, and say, I get it.
Right.
It's
and the website, by the way, is
helpful. So
let's
go
fairly
ahead
complicated.
And just discuss the fact that there is, I'm going to say here, hold on, I'm just kind of lost for words here.
Okay, we started with the UETA.
Yes, the UETA, okay. I guess what I wanted to just state is that this scheme, you actually need almost like 3D glasses for it, because we're so accustomed to knowing what was supposed to happen.
Right.
And as far as paper tangibles and what's supposed to happen, and it didn't happen. And so it's very important for people to understand again that there is the tangible paper documents and then the intangible documents also. So with that, let's go with the UETA, which stands for Uniform Electronic Transaction Act. Okay. And this law pretty much states that, and they put a lot of effort into this, number one, too. So there is a big difference between electronic documents and paper tangible documents, and that's what was on my thoughts I couldn't really come up with initially here. There is a big difference between electronic documents and paper tangible documents, and that's why they have placed so much effort into these laws.
Right.
So the Uniform Electronic Transaction Act states that, on the other hand, a consumer entering into a 5-year car loan or a 30-year mortgage needs the note and contract in a form which he or she can keep, meaning that essentially the uniform Electronic Transaction Act is stating that we have to be just very careful when we're dealing with written paper negotiable instruments.
Right.
Then an e-sign law down below here, you come across 15 U.S.C. Section 7001, and this enabled the banksters to go ahead and strip the intangible obligation as a record off of the paper note.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But as I explained at the last meeting, someone very intelligent said, you know what, that's very, very dangerous, because if we allow them to make electronic notes and deed of trust off of the paper tangibles, who's to say Gordon Gekko's not going to get it and sell that one single note multiple times and make
Exactly.
a bundle off of it?
Exactly.
What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create, if you go down a little bit farther, we're going to create the Title 15, USC 7003.
Got it.
And this law says you cannot. And again, I know some people say, what's the big deal? An electronic copy of a note. What's the big deal? It's a big deal. It's a felony if you do it. If you make an electronic copy of a tangible paper note or deed of trust, it is a felony according to this law.
Oh my God. So how come they've been doing this?
Because we're ignorant and we don't know, we were never informed, and that's why. I mean, essentially, that's as simple as can be. I mean, we're not ignorant. I shouldn't say that, because we're not ignorant if we're not given the information. I mean, my gosh, you know, as a mortgage broker, real estate broker, I no longer work for the banksters. I just want everyone to know.
Yeah.
I made an effort to study everything under the sun, but they never put these items in the books.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. So anyway, 7003 further states, if you do break laws, then you can then not try to apply UCC laws to these electronic items that you created, the electronic deed of trust and the electronic notes. You cannot do it. But they're ignoring it anyway and doing it anyway. They're trying to reconnect an unlawful electronic deed of trust back into the tangible local jurisdiction real property laws to execute foreclosures.
Oh,
Now,
my goodness.
Did you catch that?
Say it again.
Okay, what they're doing is, so we already know that what they did is they took the electronic,
Yep.
let's go ahead and see what they did do, okay?
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll review
Yeah.
what they should have done
Exactly.
onto the other laws. So what they did is they went ahead and stripped the intangible
Right.
obligation from the note. And I would like to define, too, an intangible obligation. That's considered personal property, okay?
Sort of like a
But
credit
no
card, like
evidence that personal property.
a credit
What
card
it pretty
payment.
much did is it stripped it from that note. You can kind of pretty much just say it took the energy source out of that note.
Right. What's left? When you take the payment stream, what's left?
Yes, you pretty much have a carcass note sitting there, you know, in the tangible world, some custodian holding it. They took that energy of the intangible obligation, digitized it, and sent along with it an unlawful, when I say unlawful, I mean illegal electronic copy of the note and an electronic copy of the deed of trust over to the securitization world. Then from there, they went ahead and negotiated with the certificate holders and saying, I'm trying to use simplified communication so others can understand it. They told the certificate holders, hey, we took care of you. We did everything properly according to law. All your monies will be secured by the real property, and don't you worry your little heads off. We did everything properly. When in fact they didn't. They simply submitted electronic deed of trust. They took the certificate holders' money. That's securities fraud. You could stop right there if you wanted to.
Oh, geez.
What should have happened is this, and I know this is what should have happened. Nothing ever changed. The local jurisdiction laws of real property laws never changed ever, and this is what's required. First of all, let me just go ahead and define a deed of trust again. A deed of trust is a lien, and it's only governed by local jurisdiction property laws. That is it. That's it. So what should have happened is they should have properly endorsed the note and negotiated, meaning exchange of monies between the various parties. The number of parties that are involved in the securitization process, they each had to go through this process of money of exchange, negotiating, endorsing the note, the tangible paper note correctly, all the way up to the certificate holders. And concurrently, as required by law, local jurisdiction laws, because again, remember that tangible paper deed of trust is governed by local jurisdiction property law, has to also concurrently be recorded, the assignment of deed of trust, recorded to reflect the notes negotiation, the paper notes negotiation. At that point, when all the parties have properly done this, recorded it within the public records, and everything's a public record, at that point then, they can go ahead and take the intangible obligation and then send that record over to Wall Street. They did it all backwards.
That's what I heard Neil Garfield say like last year, and he'd said it in 2010. Everything they did was backwards. They started with they sold everything. They started with certificates and sold them before they even made the loans. And so this is what they've also, I call it gaming our laws. They've created such a mess of going from tangible to it's taken several years for people to figure out what they've actually done.
Right, and that's what makes they did make the loan. I mean, the originator did make a loan. He was under in due course, so the loan was made. But what they did is it was out of greed. We want, like little kids, we want money now, right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just ignore what we're supposed to do, which was properly process the tangible paperwork all along down the line. Yes, it was going to take some time because you had to go from party A to party B, you work with the county recorder's office, get everything recorded, negotiate, do the accounting aspects as far as making sure that everyone exchanges money all the way down the line. They didn't want to take the time to do that. So what they did is they bypassed it again, and we repeat it. They stripped the intangible obligation, which is fine, but then what was wrong is they accompanied it with the deed of trust, the electronic deed of trust, and the electronic note also, then lied to the certificate holders, telling them that they properly did all the tangible steps that are required by the local jurisdiction real property laws. That was a lie. They didn't do that.
And isn't that what really started to freeze up the financial system when the investors actually found that out? That's when they started to withdraw their money from Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and caused such a pressure. I've read it that they were trying to withdraw $500 billion a day and collapse the system.
Yeah, I really am not familiar with that, but I'm sure that it has something to do that. They did recognize, you fools, you did not follow the local jurisdiction property laws.
Right.
Make sure that I was properly secured. You are.
Right.
This is securities fraud, and that's the basis. If you read all the lawsuits from all the investors, you will find that's the content of it. Their investment was never protected.
Right, and then when they found out
securities fraud on the securities market,
and not only when it was discovered, and they started to have a, if you will, a run on the shadow banking system, then the government, instead of saying, "Whoa, stop, we're going to fix this and put the blame where it belongs," they decided, "Eek, we're going to just bail these banksters out." And so, again, just what Darwin said, he said it so well, where they've privatized the profits, but they've socialized the risk. We're being the socializing. I mean, we're the people taking the risk for all of their private profits. And frankly, I don't know about you, but I'm just really upset about it.
Yeah, I am very upset about it as well. I'm just so upset because then you have, and maybe we should go into all the laws just so that we complete all the entire education here. But what makes me so upset is to see all these attorneys in the bankruptcy rooms, in courtrooms, who are lying, trying to hide this fraud,
Yes.
and who ultimately is paying for all their fraud on the court? The taxpayers.
Right. Right.
So,
Exactly. We're always on the hook, and I'm getting real sick of that because
Yeah.
I don't get any bailout. You didn't get any bailout. We can't even keep our homes. This is the people are losing the homes. They're losing their real assets to this.
no, but we
Theft.
we can keep the homes. The bottom line is once they committed that securities fraud, and I don't care if the judges want to try to hide or whatever the case may be. The law is the law. This e-sign law states exactly what it states. You cannot then take that unlawful, illegal deed of trust and try to reattach it and apply, local jurisdictions to an unlawful item. You just can't do it. The contract's dead. I can't really say much more than that.
And yet we hear all the time, Valerie, from
Did we?
from attorneys and people that are in court that it really doesn't matter what law they violated. The judges, at least in California and in most courts, are saying to themselves, this is how they reason. Did you borrow the money? Yes. Are you paying the note? No. Okay, the bank can take the house. They don't care. They're right now not caring or using any of these other illegalities to hold the bank's feet to the fire, and there's a whole bunch of speculation as to why.
The problem is see that I understand what you're saying, but again, let's go through all the laws.
Okay.
But let me just go ahead and start with this. When the intangible obligation, which is the life energy of that paper note, is separated from the deed of trust, and the deed of trust was never actually properly processed the way it should have been, essentially that power of sale is out of reach.
Now, just to clarify, when you say properly processed, are you referring to a correct legal assignment of that deed of trust to that mortgage-backed security where that loan was put?
Yes. I mean, essentially what should have happened is this. The originator should have went ahead and contacted the next subsequent owner, exchanged money, went ahead and endorsed that note over to that next person, and then also recorded an amendment to reflect the new owner.
Right.
So that way, this is what's required in the tangible word. And
Right.
there is no free path to bypass this, secure exercising the power of a sale of a deed of trust.
Right, the way it should have happened. And if they had done that, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. Because
That's exactly right. They should have
Yeah.
taken the time to do everything correctly to ensure that those certificate holders were protected.
Because if they had been protected, they wouldn't have had a run on the bank. And if they hadn't had a run on the bank, then we wouldn't be in the mess we're in.
Right. So it's really that process that I just described concerning how they were supposed to negotiate and endorse
Yes.
with the tangible world. That should have taken place first. And if there were like parties all the way up to certificate holders, that had to take 5 times as far as exchanging money and record on the deed of trust. That should have to have been done all those 5 times.
Right, right.
They didn't even do it at all whatsoever. Consequently, if they didn't do it, that power of sale, which is governed by the local jurisdiction of real estate property laws, is out of reach. You can't try to use a intangible electronic instrument to try to enforce the laws of local jurisdiction. You just can't.
Well, that's why they've forged the foreclosure paperwork. Because they didn't have the legal jurisdiction, so they just made these foreclosures up, basically.
And again, it's really very important to realize that, again, we're talking about a tangible paper note which has no value now. There's nothing to negotiate, because I think a lot of times these banks would have to believe, oh, well, this is it after. Well, exactly what are you negotiating? I mean, essentially, the life energy of that note is, like, not even there.
Right.
Negotiating.
Right. They've already stripped out all the payments and, of course, have gotten paid for it and insured it. So someone else is paying it off if a person defaults. But then in the process, and I've been saying, for months now, the reason the banks foreclose is because of the FDIC loss share agreements and other ways they get paid. They can sell the house at the auction to their wholly owned subsidiary and get pay differences, just name your scam, and then they can go to market, and the cash that they get, that goes into their pockets. So this is truly an insurance scam, a cheat to everybody involved except to the banks, privatizing those profits.
It's very key for everybody to understand that they never profit on the tangible paper side. They never went through the process at all to perfect the security rights of the deed of trust. The deed of trust only exists in the tangible world, and that's it.
Right.
Governed by the local jurisdiction laws, and they never did that process.
And
if they didn't do that, that power of sale is very key. They cannot reach it. They cannot exercise it.
And of course they are. They are exercising it. The people are giving up because they don't know any better. These documents look valid.
But that's very key.
Yeah.
We should tell the judges, did they follow the local jurisdiction laws in order to ensure that they are able to exercise the rights of the deed of trust? Well, don't know what to say.
And the judges, basically doesn't care. I mean, this is the dilemma that people face. So, did you want to, let's take a quick look at the next, did you want me to look at that diagram that you had sent?
Hold on one second.
Okay. Hey, Valerie, you're breaking up a little bit on the phone.
The difference between a tangible deed of trust and a tangible paper note and an intangible obligation. We know what that is. That's kind of like the energy lifeline of a paper note, and that's governed by UCC 9. And let's see here. And let's see, attempts to apply UCC 9 Article 9 as governing right to transfer the tangible paper note would be misplaced because tangible deed of trust. You know what? I'll let everyone read this. I think it's pretty thorough. Let me just run down here and see if there's anything else here. So we do now know that there's a big difference between an electronic documents and paper tangible documents. Very, very important to understand that.
Right, and I think they've got it.
Of the intangible, there was a case in Florida. It's whereby Florida Mortgage Bankers Association admits to the misconduct of violating 15 U.S.C. 7003. I put that in there as well.
Yes. And just for the viewers, I'm all of these documents will be linked under the comment section for this show so that you can easily find them. I'm also going to link them to the website. But my website, which is turning into like an encyclopedia, even sometimes, and I apologize, I don't know where I put a link. So I'm trying to clean it up and organize it better as this volume of information grows. I've got up right now on the screen the analysis of securitization using MERS. And then, Valerie, you also sent me a whole bunch of different faxes, which I've uploaded, I think these are your statements on using each one of these different statutes in your OCC complaint.
Yes, essentially what that is just my complaint to the OCC, asking them to reopen the case. I've been a victim, of course, of Pike Duncan and Wells Fargo. I'm not going to really go into all of it, but it's just really very appalling.
Yes.
And anyway, I'm just tired of the abuses and just told them, you need to investigate all that goes on in court, and I exposed all the issues. And so that's what that is. Okay.
And if it's okay, can I link that up to the site too? People can read through what you've written.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Thanks so much for sharing this with us, Valerie. Okay, so here's this diagram.
We discussed as far as what should have happened, so everybody knows that, again, they should have processed that paperwork first. I'm
sorry, you just broke up. Can you say that again?
Oh, sure. We just reviewed, of course, what should happen to paper.
Are you on a speakerphone?
No.
Okay, I am. You're breaking in and out, going in and out right now.
Oh, darn it.
Okay, now that was good.
Slowly.
We heard that. We're having a hard time hearing the other stuff.
Okay. So we know what they should have done,
That's better.
On the paper tangible side.
Yes.
To access the power of sale of the paper tangible deed of trust.
Right.
Okay. All right, so let me just keep on going here. Also, there is a law in here. It's Title 15 U.S.C. Chapter 41, 1641G, which states that they need to notify us of all these transfers within 30 days.
And now, did you, just a sec, did you itemize that in any specific document? Or do I need to take a note for that?
This is in that Word doc that I gave you.
It's in the Word document. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
It'll be there then.
Yeah, what I'm
All
doing
right.
is I'm just kind of pinpointing some of the highlights of some of them just to kind of get
Okay.
people's brains to just start work. Okay, can only enforce tangible deed of trust pursuant to California Government Code Section 272881 by way of filing assignments of deed of trust. So again, processing all the paperwork on the tangible world properly, it needs to be done to exercise that power of sale.
All right. So Valerie, what I'm going to try to find time to do is to go through your 12 pages of that document and pull out these laws and what they are. And Renee is coming on tomorrow, and I chatted with Linda yesterday. I'm telling you guys, amongst the four of us women, we are bound and determined to get a relatively simplified complaint that every person can fit their situation into relatively easily and be able to go to the county recorder's office, particularly in California with our new Homeowner Bill of Rights law, and file an affidavit, try to stop these forged documents from being on the property. Number one, to stop the foreclosure. Stop the foreclosure, get rid of the forged documents, or defang them, make them powerless. And then if we can actually combine and find an attorney, find a way to stop the foreclosure mills like they are in Florida right now, then that would be real helpful and help all the other people that haven't been able to yet either find out that we're fighting back like this. And so every one of these laws are going to be in that complaint, I swear, and simplified. Like, it's such a struggle. Valerie's worked so hard to simplify this, and then look at this chart. Go ahead, Valerie.
Okay, we're almost done here. Okay, so we've already also just described here again. I'm just going to repeat it because this is so important. Can only enforce tangible deed of trust pursuant to California Government Code Section 272881
Right.
by filing assignments in deed of trust, and also by means of just properly negotiating that paper note also before stripping it.
Right.
Only then, if the deed of trust has been properly processed through all the paper world, then at that point they can exercise the power of sale. Did they do that?
No.
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 They broke the laws. They instead used electronic notes, which are, it's a felony
Right.
to do that. And essentially they voided all of our contracts, I'm sorry to say. Now, they're going to argue that there is a case, I think it's Colville versus HSBC. I'll have to research that and make sure, and say, well, we don't have to file the assignments. And my response would be, but look, you do. Well, first of all, if your transaction was legal, maybe not, but the bottom line is your transaction is securities fraud. So how do you think you can apply UCC laws and the local laws of jurisdiction, real property laws concerning security fraud? How can you apply those to foreclosing on homes? You can't.
Right. And we need to make it straightforward and simple. We thank you so much for looking up these laws and doing your best to help us get a clear feel of exactly what they've done. I've got your chart up there. You want to talk through that quickly?
Okay, so in this one part, there's just some notes which also kind of clarify things. Okay.
You're still sort of breaking up, Valerie.
I'm going to pull up the chart real quick here.
Okay, go ahead.
People are getting this. Okay. So what we have here is a diagram of everything. I think it's going to be easy for them to see. So here's the note here that with the payment obligation, And then at the GN mortgage office is where they actually strip the note.
Right here.
And they
the
go
lender.
ahead and forward that along with the electronic deed of trust and electronic note over to Freddie Mac. And they use that as collateral in order to access the money from the certificate holders.
Okay.
And also more than likely purchase credit default swaps, etc.
Right.
And I the other item too is it's really kind of an unknown as far as how much in commissions these securitizers actually receive, which would have a great effect on the TILA requirements and disclosing exactly what it actually cost us in forms of paying other people commissions.
Right.
And let's see here. So nowhere can you see as far as the tangible paperwork being done for Lee First, right? So again, that pass table is not accessible.
Uh-oh. I think I've lost you. Do you want to call back?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so yeah, this document just pretty much just shows essentially how they took the intangible by itself. They didn't properly negotiate the paper deed of trust, so they lost access to the power of sale on that end. And essentially what they have to do is they have to try then to smoke screen all of us to go ahead and move forward with filing various fraudulent documents, which are really, I mean, they really don't need that much attention, in my opinion, just because the bottom line is that the power of sale is not reachable at all. They can't. It's out of reach, and so all this stuff that they're doing is just
completely illegal and forged and fraudulent,
Yeah.
and they're getting away with it with impunity because they've bought off our government. That's the summary, if you will, of what I see happening. And how we stop it individually. There's two things we must do, I'm thinking. We have the homeowners themselves that are losing the house. I have this vision. They're fighting at the doorfront. You know, the sheriff is coming to get them and jerk them out by the hair, and they're, you know, battling, trying to keep the house, trying to fight off these predators individually, one at a time, feeling like they're all alone. There's nobody else in the world, and then many of them buying into, I'm a deadbeat, so, you know, or they know they lost their job and they thought they could get a loan modification, their income, you know, was reduced, and then they've been lied and cheated, you know, you know the story. But then we also must, as a nation, as a group of people, actually stop this whole game because they'll just continue. This is how bullies and robbers are. They just keep stealing, they just keep bullying until we stop them, until they're stopped.
right. Yeah, and you know, and we didn't even get to the part concerning the fact that we have this account debtor who really has never been disclosed to us at all, which is required by federal laws if we request to know it. But they just decide whoever this person is, who actually is the one who is indebted to the certificate holders and not us.
And that would be the bank, right? Or the person that put the securitization together?
I mean, they just want time and time again for Wells Fargo to disclose the true creditor or just any other party, and they just refuse to disclose it. I mean, you know, they're above the law. How
That's
dare
right.
I forget that?
That's right. That's right.
There is a document right behind that diagram.
Yeah,
which
15
is called
pages.
Pig in a Poke.
Yep.
And it's excellent. That's why I attached it to teach individuals exactly what we discussed. And I think that when they read this and go back to listen to James' meeting with you, and then my
Right.
last meeting with you, and then this
Right.
one here, things are going to connect just so well. You know, the only other thing that I think that we didn't discuss was the MERS. And again, I just really feel the bottom line is that when they chose to commit a crime at the very beginning and void our contracts and separate the tangible deed of trust from the energy source of that paper note in the obligation world and break the laws regarding the electronic documents, is that we're lost all power to do anything.
Right, right. If it's securities fraud, there is no power there. I mean,
Right.
basically, you know.
And actually, we have to look into who has been harmed exactly, too, because if all these credit default swaps paid off everybody, has been harmed? Is Wells Fargo and these banks just so greedy that they have to have every crumb and take the home away from a homeowner who has been put in the middle of security fraud and
Right.
has a void contract?
Right.
And has a contract, that was also made null and void, where the tangible paper deed of trust was separated from the intangible obligation, the heartbeat of that paper note,
Right.
whereby that tangible deed of trust now is out of reach from all these crooks.
Right.
Well, then,
Right.
They shouldn't have to move from their home.
Exactly. 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 And they should get their houses back if they've been foreclosed. And as we know, and as I'll tell people, because they didn't do this right, they didn't record the from lender to Federal Home, Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, into the trust, into the documents. They didn't record these security instruments, the deeds of trust or mortgages for the notes into those trusts the way they told the IRS they were going to and the way they should have. It's not our fault. It's not the people's fault. And so they've lost their homes, and every securitized loan falls into this fraudulent foreclosure tank. So
Exactly.
all the
Yeah,
people
and-
should
and
get their homes back.
I'd like to just go ahead and just end just very quickly, too, and just claim that, again, no one should be smokescreen anymore when these attorneys are saying, we don't have to file the assignment of deed of trust.
Right.
Well, excuse me, but yes, you do. According to
Exactly.
the IRS, according to what
Property law.
in order for you to access the power of the sale of the deed of trust, you have to record these items.
Right. And they have to be recorded accurately and correctly, not forged documents.
Yeah, the purpose, and I put that down in that 12-page item. I'm trying to go from memory. I'm just going to kind of go off the top of my head here. But essentially, the assignments are not necessary for the inside parties, but it's mandatory in order for any party outside of that arrangement, such as second lien holders, anybody to go ahead and have a grasp on actually who is partaking in the property. It's mandatory to have that full disclosure, and mandatory from all the trusts, all of the manuals from Fannie and Freddie Mac.
Right.
So it is mandatory, and the bottom line is,
Right.
I feel like just telling me, you know what, I don't even want to have time for you. Just take all of your fraudulent paperwork off of my home.
Exactly.
Line is that you don't have access to that power, so just it's all irrelevant. I don't care. Just get you LSI, LPS, take it all off my home.
Right,
It is
right.
what it comes down to. You have
Right.
access. You do not process the tangible paperwork correctly to access the power of sale of the tangible paper deed of trust. So take it all off.
Right. I totally agree, and that's what the people want, and that's what the people deserve. Hey, we're going to have to go, Valerie. We thank you so much for this, and I promise the viewers I'm going to have this linked to the comment section and on the website. And if you come up with other information or clarification, please don't hesitate to let me know so you can join us again.
That sounds fun. I'll try to perfect this paper and send you an update of more perfected format.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. I'm telling you, as the whole country can benefit from the hard work of these few people, it just warms my heart that I'm not alone fighting back. So thank you. This is CJ Holmes, founder of
everyone.
Homeowners for Justice. We're all saying goodbye. Thank you. See you tomorrow.